we have a new character, and I know it's been a while. It's been all types of leaks going on, and most of the leaks I'll say I don't believe. Outside of the box art, because I'm still standing in the middle. Are we gonna get Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2 or the sequel or some kind of teaser tomorrow for July 10th? We're gonna have to wait and see. Even if it's not a reveal, not gonna be upset. I think it's gonna possibly be something coming soon, maybe this week, potentially. It's a strong chance, considering from the history from this game that you guys are telling me. I didn't even know about it because I first heard about this game from one of my friends that told me that, did you know that there's going to be a Nickelodeon fighting game coming out with all types of Nicktoons characters? So I ended up finding out from him, and that's how I really got into the game. I didn't hear about the game getting leaked or anything originally, or the certain characters that were in the files or anything like that. That's how I ended up finding out about this game. I thought it was just a silly joke that he was making up, but it was actually a real game that was coming out in the fall. So that's why I ended up deciding to buy the game and give it a shot, because I like playing all the types of different games, and I grew up watching these shows. But we're gonna have to see what happens tomorrow. I'm gonna be on this game to see if they drop some kind of big update. Maybe they'll have a patch, crossplay gets revealed for the next game, a character teaser, or maybe some kind of trailer. We're gonna have to wait and find out tomorrow. So one more day to go. Well, let me know what you guys think for this particular character and what you guys think is gonna happen tomorrow, if anything. But let's start talking about Ruby Gloom. Ruby Gloom is one of the new characters for me, a new character request that I decided to put together. And the reason why I thought she would be fitting is because she's almost right behind this company, Nirvana, that has something to do with Timmy Turner and Fairly OddParents, and the rights behind the company. And if she can get into the game, or if Timmy can get into the game, maybe they could probably have a chance to get Ruby Gloom. Let me just say this right now before I start getting into the ideas and talking about this character. The movesets that I come up with for these characters, I always try to make the most sense, so it pays tribute to the show. It represents the character, what they could possibly play like, so it's not made up fluff. I put the research in, I watched the shows, the clips, and all that kind of stuff. I didn't want to just make any old kind of moveset. It's for all the different characters. Let me say this too. This series is about requests and characters that y'all want to see make it into the game, and it's not about them having a high chance getting into the game. It's the character's moveset potential to be able to fit in this game. It's not about, well, this character has no chance, this character is impossible, and this, that, and the other. It's the character potential and the moveset and the character being more than capable of being a playable character in this game. That's why I came up with this series. And not just talking about like everybody else, just talking about these characters. I'm going to put the moveset so y'all can see it yourself and be able to decide, maybe will she have a different move, and do you see her playing the way that I think she can play, or this particular character that I'm talking about for the request. So that's what this series is about. It's not about, do they have a high chance of getting into the game? It's just the character itself having a good potential, and the moves, just all types of different moves and abilities to be able to shine and be a good fit for this roster. So I just wanted to bring that across, because some people got it a little bit confused from other posts, like Nick Jr. characters, for example. So that's why I see the potential behind them, and I just wanted to get that out there. So even if they don't get in, that's completely fine, but I see the potential in certain characters and all types of characters that can be able to have different moves like Ruby Gloom. But that's all I wanted to just get started with before we jump in. You don't have to watch the full video. The whole moveset and everything I'm going to talk about is going to be in the description, so everybody can see the moves that I came up with, and then the references as well. So you guys in the chat yesterday helped come up with some alternate costumes because you guys have been watching the show. So that's the only thing that gave me the most trouble. But everything else I was able to put together for Ruby Gloom. For maybe she could probably be in the Nickelodeon All Star Brawl 2 DLC, which is part of the roster. Well, let's start talking about her backstory. And just like I mentioned before, she's a new character in a new show that I recently started watching to be able to see what this character is all about. Ruby is a rad doll that stands out as the voice of positivity, the voice of reason to her friends, and they all live in this mansion, or this spooky mansion. And when you watch this show, you can see the energy that she carries, where nothing brings her down, and her positive attitude really allows her friends to push through almost just about anything that they're going through. Ruby Gloom is there for them to be able to push through and brighten their days, to solve their problems. And that's when you watch the show, you be able to find out that nothing can really just puts away her smile and her positive attitude and her energy. She always is looking on the bright side of things, no matter what's going on in these shows. And when you watch this show, if you're interested, from the episodes, there's always a different adventure. You don't have to watch it in some kind of particular order, unless certain episodes have a two-parter that I've seen before. But every adventure, when you watch from the episodes, there's different adventures and things that her friends get into. Misery, Skullboy, and all the others in the show. For Ruby Gloom, you'll be able to see what goes on and all the different things that they get into. But Ruby Gloom is definitely the, I'll just say, the beacon of light from everything that goes on in the mansion and things like that, to help bring things back together. But the show focuses on the adventures of Ruby and her spooky looking friends who live in this mansion, including her pet cat Doom Kitty. And Doom Kitty is a special character that I wanted to bring to the table today, that helped me create some unique ideas. And Doom Kitty could be a great part and play a special, powerful role with Ruby Gloom, but I'm gonna get into that later, and you guys will be able to see what I came up with. So I'm curious to see what you guys think. But just like I was saying, each episode tells a different story, and it's just an adventure, or a different adventure. And monsters living in a mansion, and the things that they get up to, it's just always different as you watch the show and the episodes. But that's just a little bit about her backstory, and just how the show is basically, how the show goes on when you watch, if you're interested in watching Ruby Gloom. So I ended up finding the episodes on YouTube. I didn't have to go on Tubi, or some of you guys are talking about YTV and stuff like that. That's exclusive to Canada or something like that. I didn't have to go on those platforms to watch some of the episodes to help me put some ideas together in my research. But that's her backstory. I just wanted to share that, and that's something I like doing for these type of videos, is talking about the backstory of the character, so you guys can get to know whomever it is in the spotlight for the character request videos itself. But now we're going to move on to the stages, and it's obviously one stage that I end up selecting. It takes place in Gloomsville, and I think if the developers end up picking up Ruby Gloom, they can feature the mansion of Gloomsville. It's the main setting, and when I was watching the show, it kind of gave me that Royalwood Cemetery feeling, because you could see something in the background. It's like a rainy background, things like that. They can make it spooky like that when they're designing it. But Gloomsville, I think, would really look good in the sequel, or maybe just whenever they come out with it, if they were to go after this character for DLC as a new character to be added into the roster. And just some ideas, just talking about the stage of Gloomsville. The moon is actually alive when you watch the show, and even when you play the intro, the moon is singing the song, and the moon, it falls asleep, and so it wakes up sometimes too, but you can see it sleeping in the background as you watch the show and the episodes. The moon can be alive to pay tribute to the town from the show, and it can turn from bright to dark, because it has two different sides. It has a bright side and a dark side. So that moon being alive in the background will really be cool to see for a Ruby Gloom stage to be added with the character DLC. And then some characters in the background: her friend Iris, Misery that I mentioned, Skullboy, Frank and Lynn, Scaredy Bat, Mr. Buns and all the other ones, they can be background characters that you can be able to see, and they could be cheering Ruby on, something like that. And since Frank and Lynn, they like to play the guitar, I think it was though, could be wrong, but they play the guitar. They could be playing some music to Ruby Gloom, Ruby Gloom stage, and just seeing that and picturing that, the developers can really have a nice stage for Ruby Gloom fans out there. So that's the main setting and the main stage that I would put together, and I would select and include in the DLC for Ruby Gloom for Gloomsville. It's the perfect tribute. Now, a couple of alternate costumes, I don't want to get everything. Some of them I was able to find prior. I added in, and let's say this too, just when these characters, they got one costume, only one costume. I'm hoping they bring more to the sequel if it is a real game. Ruby Gloom has a lot of different variety of costumes, and some of these other characters can definitely get in to be able to have other costumes and things outside of just a hat, like this, for example. So, for alternate costumes, I'm the Captain Bolt. It's like from the musical, Hairless, the musical for Ruby Gloom. She could have her boat costume on that she wore in that little scene during that sing-along musical. Then some others, Princess Ruby with a new hairstyle, the blue sparkly dress and the gold crown from Venus Day Gloomsville episode. And you can find these episodes here on YouTube as well, because someone's been posting them. Detective Ruby, her Detective Ruby costume and this green stylish trench coat from the last train to Gloomsville. These costumes are definitely going to look good. And just look at the style of some of these characters. You can imagine just some of her costumes looking really good. Just with these character models. Just the quality of it. Just even just like Jenny's, Danny Phantom, and then SpongeBob. Just even Tall, Zone, things like that. See how they changed them? Ruby Gloom can definitely really look good in this game. And then, outside of her detective outfit, another one I found on my own, Winter Yam hat. She can wear her Winter Yam hat. It's like the little Christmas episode, Happy Yamleen, which is like the Christmas sort of theme that happens in Gloomsville, the Christmas celebration. But that's just if they go for a little hat. So they don't have to just come out with a hat. They just have all these other costumes. And there's some other ideas that I wanted to add on to this for a costume. I always do color variations. And why not have the player customize the color of her dress, the stockings, and or maybe mismatch if they want to play around with these colors as a unique costume feature. When you buy Ruby Gloom, you can customize her dress, can change the hairstyle, things like that. Can't do that with April and none of these characters. See, it'll make the DLC even more unique. Instead of just locking it behind, you buy the character and you get a costume, you can unlock the exclusive feature for customization to be able to play around with the colors that you want, and you can change your hairstyle, the dress, the stockings, and stuff like that. It's a unique costume feature that can be exclusive to Ruby Gloom prior to the battle. So instead of just see how I say R1, you can press R1 and then you can just be able to select, see how it says this, have some kind of menu where you can click on to be able to select the color that you want and the hairstyle that you want for Ruby Gloom. See what I'm saying? It could be something like that. They could do something with something like with these other characters. That could be something carried on into the sequel. So that way you're just not just changing one little part. You could just change the hair and match up and mix match the colors if you want to mix things up. So that's just some kind of unique idea that I came up with, some kind of additional feature with the alternate costumes. That'll be something. Not too many taunts, little animations, and her most iconic her most iconic phrase or catchphrase is "look on the bright side," because she always looks on the bright side of things when her friends are feeling down and they're not feeling the best. So she always says, look on the bright side, and it's part of who she is. Just like I finished explaining earlier, for her personality, she's always a positive person, always smiling to be able to look on the bright side of things to uplift her friends' spirits. So look on the bright side. That could be something that she could say when she comes in on the battlefield, or maybe it could be part of her arcade. And then as a little bit of animation, just a little taunt. You can even look it up in the picture with her pose. You guys will probably see it today. But she can catch Doom Kitty into her arms, and she can hold Doom Kitty with a big giant hug. You see what I'm saying? Just something like that for a little animation. She play around with Doom Kitty as a little bit of a taunt. And then Ruby's iconic dance from the show, and that she does in the Mayday party that she was throwing when her friends thought she was leaving the mansion and moving away. Ruby Gloom can do that dance that she did at the end of the episode from Gloomer Rumor, and it also pops up during the intro. So when you watch the intro, when you listen to the intro for Ruby Gloom, you can see her doing the same dance that she does when she's throwing this Mayday party. It'll be perfect, and I see that as some kind of victory animation. If it's not a taunt, it could be both a victory animation or a taunt or victory animation for that. But I just put it under the little taunts and animations. But that's all I could come up with as far as the taunts and animations for Ruby Gloom, because I couldn't really find anything or see any sort of particular poses that she does watching these episodes and these clips from the show. But I can visually see those happening, some kind of animation or a taunt involving Doom Kitty, and then that dance that she does from the Mayday party, and just basically from the intro. It'll be perfect, and it's funny too. Be able to tease the opponent playing around online. But anyway, now it's time for my favorite part, the moveset. I always spend the most time with it because I want to try to make it as best as I can, and then make it make sense, so it's not just thrown together, and you guys can visually see it instead of just talking about it. You know what I mean? And have visual to see the name of the moves and how I came up with it and stuff like that. So this is all in the description for you guys to read and critique it how you want to. So I started with Doom Kitty, and I'm gonna move over to I'm just between Zim and Rocco. I'm gonna move over to Rocco because he has Spunky that he brings out, and then he brings out Gurr. So just between these two, because no one else can summon. I don't think they can. Just looking at the characters. Zim and Rocco are the only two characters that can summon a whole different character on the battlefield. Just trying to make sure. Yeah, it's because everybody else got projectiles. Fireball, it's a little spinning top looking like Beyblades. Pies, things like that. Okay, so it's definitely Zim and Rocco that can only summon. Ruby Gloom can be another one of those characters to make the roster a little bit more unique. So I started with Doom Kitty on purpose, and I wanted to give her a special role to be a part of Ruby. She's gonna follow Ruby around during the battlefield, but she cannot be attacked. And something about Doom Kitty, just a little bit of a fun fact that I learned from watching the show, Doom Kitty always knows what's going on with her friends. She always knows the problems that's going on, and she's always a step ahead of Ruby Gloom. Even though Ruby Gloom is the problem solver, Doom Kitty has always helped out Ruby Gloom in regards to the problems. And Doom Kitty does charades in the show, and I wanted to implement that for part of Doom Kitty's special abilities for the moveset for Ruby Gloom. And Ruby Gloom is the only character in the show that can understand what Doom Kitty's trying to say, because Doom Kitty cannot talk. All she can do is basically do signs, or basically these charades that she does in the show, to be able to signal and try to assist Ruby in telling her what's going on and the others. So Doom Kitty already always knows what's going on and what's happening. So she is always usually the one to really be able to be the source and find out what's really going on with the characters in the show, and then before Ruby starts solving the problems. So I put Doom Kitty in the moveset to start, and where Ruby can call upon Doom Kitty on the battlefield, and Doom Kitty can perform these special charades. I just wanted to give a couple of them. I could have added more. A few charades to pay tribute to the show. Just like I finished explaining, Ruby's the only one that can read and understand what Doom Kitty is trying to say. Let me just throw the reference out there. See how Johnny from NASB can understand what Plank is always saying when he's just a block of wood? It's just something like that. But of course he can't move or anything like that. But with Doom Kitty performing these special charades, Ruby is able to understand what she's trying to say and what she's doing. So each sort of charade can have a different sort of movement. So the first one I came up with is Bright Side, just to pay tribute to the show, where Ruby can feel the power of positivity all around beginning to glow, and she can begin to glow for this animation and gains an increase in all of her attacks. And the one thing about Doom Kitty is that only one charade can be able to be performed at a time. So you can't spam these charades and make Ruby Gloom so overpowered. You can only use one special charade, so that way she can receive the benefits of one at a time. So that way it has that balance. So I wanted to come up with that. And then the next one, and these charades are only these charade buffs or these effects of these charades that Doom Kitty casts and performs will only be active for a limited amount of time, so it's fair. Does it stay on all match? And the player can be able to switch between which kind of charade you want to perform or what they want to activate, and what they want to activate with Doom Kitty. The other one, I put Dark Side, because the Bright Side and Dark Side is always usually referenced in the show. So I thought these would be perfect names for these charades. So the second charade that I came up with that Doom Kitty can perform on the field is this one. Ruby can feel her world crashing down from the dark side. She can feel her world crashing down on her and gains super armor and receives less damage for a limited amount of time. So, two special abilities for Doom Kitty, and just like I finished saying, Doom Kitty cannot be attacked. So you definitely don't want to let him or let her be able to do these charades. You definitely have to hit Ruby to make sure Doom Kitty doesn't finish the charade. So you want to give her all that space to even try to get these charades out. It's definitely a good little move. And so that's just the move set that I gave for Doom Kitty to have some kind of special role to be able to get in and assist and help Ruby out in the fight. So I gave her a projectile attack, and I was referencing the Mayday party, and I called it Gloom Party. So a Gloom Party projectile attack where everyone is invited. So Ruby can throw party invitations across the screen at her enemies. See how Hugh Neutron can throw ducks? I wanted to at least give Ruby some kind of projectile attack. I didn't want to have her throwing random skulls, from the cemetery or something like that. I wanted to make something that's more fitting for this character. So little party invitations from the Mayday party at her projectiles, similar to how Hugh can throw ducks, Garfield throws pies, she spits up trash across the screen, things like that. Everybody got their own little projectile. She has a slingshot, but she could be throwing party invitations. Lucy Law doesn't even have a projectile attack. So I thought it'd be different for this kind of character. So that's her projectile attack, and then just a little bit of a running attack. Her big wheel, her bicycle that she rides in the show, I used her big wheel bite and implemented that as a particular move where Ruby can charge towards the enemy in quick succession with her bicycle and launch the enemy away. And then I wanted to utilize her diary from the show that got read by one of her friends. I think it was Iris who read in, who managed to sneak, just read her diary behind the scenes and sneak in there. So I put diary strike, where Ruby protects her diary at all costs by knocking the enemy away, like a cool little strong move. It could be a neutral strong. Her diary strike, so she smack you with it. Her next move, her recovery. I had some trouble with this one though, with how she could recover. But I put stars above, where Ruby can launch herself into the sky and she can use her spooky spider parachute to slowly descend. Almost like Princess Peach. You see how she has an umbrella? She could have something like that, but with her parachute. She does that in the show when she's trying to get her space away from her friends. And then she lands into like a spooky looking tree, and it had like spider webs on it, like a spider design on it. She can use that same parachute when she descends into the air. It could be a really good recovery move because she's going to be in the air for a while, for several seconds. But that's the most trouble that I had, was trying to think of how she could recover. But I think that'll make the most sense. And then something that I'm really doing to spice up these moveset character requests for Ruby Gloom to wrap up. I gave her an ultimate attack, and I call this Spirit of Joyfulness. And since Ruby is the carrier of the crest of joyfulness, Ruby shines brighter than ever, receiving no damage, increasing her speed and power. And then Doom Kitty also targets all enemies on the field for additional damage and cannot be interrupted. So you got Doom Kitty all over you, that's gonna swarm you, and then you got Ruby Gloom that you're gonna have Doom Kitty swarming you, that's gonna rush you. And Ruby Gloom is gonna be completely invincible. She's gonna be faster, and she's gonna be doing double the damage. So that's going to be perfect for her ultimate attack. So that's what I'm trying to do with more of these characters as I come out with them, is give them ultimate attacks. It's not final smashes, ultimate attacks, to be able to give them some kind of a special move, that, or some kind of super ultra special ability for them to make them even more dangerous. So that when that slime bar fill up, she'll be able to unleash her spirit of joyfulness with everyone on the field. And you definitely don't want to get near her, and then you got to start running from Doom Kitty, because she's going to be moving, she's going to be active on the field, outside of her charades and her charade buffs and abilities. But that's everything that I came up with for this character request for Ruby Gloom. I had fun putting it together. It was not easy because it's a new show, and with a character like her, you want to just try to use the episodes, and I was trying to use the episodes to try to come up with great ideas for this character, because it'd be different if it's a show that I recognize and someone has actual superpowers. It'd be easier to come up with a moveset. But I think Ruby Gloom was a little bit tougher for me, and it was a tougher challenge, a more difficult challenge for me. But I'm glad I put something together that could be logical, and it can make sense for how she can play. And I think it pays tribute to her trusted Doom Kitty, who's always there for her and looking out and knowing what's going on. And then Ruby Gloom herself, with her positive energy, and using that as part of her moveset for what she can do to make her dangerous and playable for a game like this. But let me know what y'all think. And just like I said, the moveset is already going to be in the description. And what do you guys think is going to happen tomorrow? Maybe we'll probably end up getting a trailer. Maybe we'll get some kind of teaser or reveal. But we'll just have to wait and see. But I feel like even if it's not tomorrow, it's probably going to be something this week.